black broke business man pulled over to help a stranger, not knowing she is the millionaire could change his life forever. Derek Jones was broke, tired, and one missed payment away from losing everything. He had no idea that a simple act of kindness, pulling over for a lonely hitchhiker, would lead to a moment that would rewrite both their lives. Derek slowed his van, the engine groaning as he pulled to the shoulder. He didn't usually stop for strangers, too many horror stories, but something about the girl made him hesitate. Maybe it was the way she stood, not desperate, just tired, like someone used to waiting. He rolled down the window. "You okay?" he called. She stepped closer, pushing a strand of hair behind her ear. She couldn't have been more than 20. "Trying to get to the city. Bus left me. Been out here an hour." Derek glanced at the empty passenger seat. "I'm headed that way. Hop in." She hesitated, then nodded, grabbed her bag, and climbed in. The silence stretched as he pulled back onto the road, the tires kicking up gravel. "Name's Derek," he offered. "Jada," she replied. "Thanks for stopping. Not many people do." "Not many people got the time," he said, then shrugged. "But I figure we all need help sometimes." Jada gave a half smile. "Yeah, tell me about it." They rode in quiet for a while, the hum of the engine filling the space between them. Derek stole a glance at her, eyes fixed on the road, jaw tight. He knew that look. He'd worn it himself too many times. Life hadn't gone the way she planned. "I run a delivery business," he said, more to make conversation than anything else. "Small, barely hanging on." Jada looked over. "You built it yourself?" "Yeah. Scraped it together with savings, side jobs, every penny. It's been rough." She nodded slowly. "Sounds like you're doing better than most." Derek chuckled, though there wasn't much humor in it. "Maybe. Still grinding, though." She smiled for real then. "Well, maybe I can help." Derek kept one hand on the wheel, the other drumming absently against his thigh. Rachel sat stiffly in the passenger seat, her backpack clutched tight in her lap like it held something more precious than clothes. She gazed out the window, but her eyes weren't on the scenery. They were somewhere far away, lost in thought. "You from around here?" he asked, keeping his tone casual. "Not really," she said quickly. "Just passing through." Derek nodded, not pushing. But he noticed things, details most might overlook. Her shoes were spotless, her nails carefully manicured, and her phone, a high-end model, buzzed quietly in her hoodie pocket before she silenced it without a glance. She wasn't your average drifter. "You travel light," he said, half joking. Rachel offered a tight smile. "Didn't have time to pack." That raised a flag, but Derek kept his eyes on the road. He wasn't trying to get involved in something messy. Still, he couldn't help wondering what, or who, she was running from. They passed an old gas station. Derek debated stopping, but decided to push on. Silence hung thick between them until Rachel finally broke it. "Why'd you pick me up?" He glanced at her, surprised by the question. "You looked like you needed a ride." "People don't usually stop, especially for strangers." Derek shrugged. "Maybe I'm just built different." Rachel studied him for a moment. "You ever run from something?" Derek's jaw tensed. "Yeah, a few things. But they always catch up eventually." She didn't respond, just nodded slowly. Whatever she was hiding, it was heavy. And whatever came next, Derek could tell. It wasn't just going to be a quiet ride to the next town. Something was about to catch up. Derek kept one hand on the wheel, the other tapping a slow rhythm on his thigh. Rachel sat tensely beside him, her posture too perfect for someone hitchhiking. Her designer sneakers were spotless, her hoodie crisp, and her skin smelled faintly of expensive perfume. Not exactly road-worn. Her backpack never left her lap, clutched like a lifeline. She stared out the window, but Derek could tell her mind was elsewhere. "You from around here?" he asked, his voice light, conversational. "Not really," she replied quickly. "Just passing through." Derek nodded, but kept his curiosity tucked behind a calm expression. Something didn't sit right. She didn't talk like someone who'd spent the night on a bench or was down to her last dollar. Her words were polished, her voice steady, controlled. Too controlled. "You travel light," he joked, glancing at the small backpack. Rachel gave a strained smile. "Didn't have time to pack." That line hung in the air longer than it should have. Derek didn't ask what she meant. He didn't need to. He knew the look of someone who'd left in a hurry. They passed an old gas station. Derek considered stopping, but kept going. He wasn't sure he wanted to linger somewhere public with a woman, who looked like someone might be looking for her. Silence settled until Rachel spoke again. "Why'd you pick me up?" He glanced at her. "You looked like you needed a ride." "People don't usually stop," she said, "especially for strangers. Maybe I'm just built different." Rachel looked at him, studying him now. "You ever run from something?" Derek tightened his grip on the wheel. "Yeah," he said quietly, "but running only works for so long." She didn't respond, just turned back to the window. Whatever she was running from, it wasn't far behind. Derek's van rumbled to a stop beside the gas station's flickering sign. The sun had dipped behind the hills, casting long shadows across the empty lot. He turned off the engine and looked over at Rachel, who sat quietly, hands still wrapped around her backpack. "This is it," he said softly. Rachel nodded but didn't move right away. Her gaze lingered on the glowing station lights, her face unreadable. After a long pause, she opened the door, slinging her bag over one shoulder. "Thank you," she said, turning back to face him. Her voice was sincere, tinged with something deeper. Relief, maybe. Or regret. "For the ride? And for not treating me like I'm crazy?" Derek gave her a tired smile. "Don't worry about it, we've all been there." She hesitated again, then reached into her bag and pulled out a small, folded envelope. "Open this later. Please." Before he could ask anything, she stepped out and shut the door behind her. She didn't look back as she walked across the lot and disappeared into the glow of the storefront. Derek sat there a moment longer, the envelope resting on the passenger seat, like it weighed 100 pounds. It was well past midnight when Derek finally got home, his bones aching from the day's work. His one-bedroom apartment was small, but clean. A space he protected like his last shred of dignity. He kicked off his boots, tossed his keys on the counter, and dropped onto the couch. That's when he remembered the envelope. He opened it carefully, unfolding the crisp paper inside. The handwriting was elegant and fluid. "You believed in a stranger. You saw value without status. That's rare. I'll be in touch because people like you deserve a chance." His brow furrowed, eyes scanning the bottom of the note where a check was taped. Derek blinked. $20,000, drawn from a major startup investment firm, one he'd read about, watched in interviews, seen at tech conferences online. He looked at the signature, barely daring to believe it. Rachel Weller. His mind reeled. Rachel Weller, as in Weller Ventures, the daughter of the late Marcus Weller, one of the most influential figures in the tech world. Billion-dollar investments. Global reach. She wasn't just anyone. She was the kind of person people begged to notice them, and she had sat in his van, hiding from the world. He reread the note, fingers trembling. It wasn't just about the money. though God knew he needed it. It was the validation, the proof that being kind, even when life gave you every reason not to be, still meant something. Derek leaned back against the couch, staring at the ceiling. For the first time in a long while, hope didn't feel like a fantasy. It felt like a beginning. Derek didn't rush to cash the check. It sat on his kitchen counter for days, untouched, next to a stack of overdue bills and half-finished business plans. He stared at it every morning, wondering if it was some elaborate joke. People like him didn't get handed lifelines, especially not from someone like her. A week later, his phone rang. The caller ID was unfamiliar. "Hi, Derek. It's Rachel." Her voice was calm, steady, and different, more assured than before. She told him she'd gone home, confronted her family, and made a decision. She wasn't going to let their name or money define her anymore. Instead, she was using her trust to start something meaningful, a private investment fund to support overlooked entrepreneurs. "You were the first person who didn't ask me for anything," she said. "That meant more than you know. The check is real, and it's only the beginning." Derek didn't have words, but after that call, everything changed. 6 months later, his once failing business had transformed. He bought 2 more vans, hired drivers, mostly folks with tough pasts like his own. People society had cast aside, people who needed a second shot. He offered not just jobs, but dignity. And Rachel? She showed up often, not with cameras or boardroom swagger, but with coffee, ideas, and laughter. She listened, helped where she could, and never once made him feel small. In a world full of closed doors, one act of kindness had opened a path neither of them expected. If this story touched you, leave a comment, hit that like button, and subscribe for more powerful real-life stories. Never underestimate the impact of kindness. You never know who's sitting next to you,